The holidays are here, and that means it's the most wonderful time of the year to save with Rakuten. Use Rakuten to stack cash back at your favorite stores on top of holiday sales. That's savings on savings. With Rakuten, you get cash back on gifts for everyone on your list. From toys for the kids, to kitchen gear for the person who loves to cook, to electronics for everyone. You can even save on something for yourself. Just shop the stores you love and cash back is automatically added to your account. And you can get paid with gift cards, PayPal, or check. Or eligible American Express card members can even choose to earn membership rewards points instead of cash back. It's truly a no-brainer. Join for free today and get a new member bonus after minimum qualifying purchases. Just go to Rakuten.com, download the app, or install the browser extension. That's RAKUTEN. Terms and conditions apply.
The wait is over. Dive into Audible's most anticipated collection, The Best of 2025, featuring top audiobooks, podcasts, and originals across all genres. Our editors have carefully curated this year's must-listens, from brilliant hidden gems to the buzziest new releases. Every title in this collection has earned its spot. This is your go-to for the absolute best in 2025 audio entertainment. Whether you love thrillers, romance, or nonfiction, your next favorite listen awaits. Discover why there's more to imagine when you listen at audible.com/bestoftheyear.
On today's episode of Parenting Great Kids.
These algorithms on social media are so powerful that companies have poured billions into making their products, they would call them as engaging as possible, but what many people would say is as addictive as possible.
Welcome to Parenting Great Kids. Here's your host, Dr. Meg Meeker.
We talk about kids and technology a lot on this podcast, and for good reason. Just when you think you've figured it out, a new platform, app, or trend comes along that changes the game. And that's why this conversation is always worth revisiting. Joining me today is Dr. Jean Twenge, psychologist, researcher, and mom of 3. And she's here to share insights from her new book, 10 Rules for Raising Kids in a High-Tech World. Dr. Twenge, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Now, you've been studying the impact of technology on kids for a long time. So from your perspective, what is the biggest change in childhood and parenting that smartphones and social media have brought about?
You know, it's just how much these devices have taken over our kids' lives. Because it used to be that the fight a parent would have would maybe be about you're spending too much time watching TV, you're spending too much time in the gaming console. Now it's those and 10 other devices, and it's a much larger amount of time. So, yeah, I came to this issue as a researcher because I work with a lot of big data sets of teens. Watching TV never went past about 2 hours a day among teens. And now screen time is around 10 hours a day. Most of them, most of this, and that's recreational screen time. So it's not even counting doing homework and things like that.
Well, and how much, so that's the recreation. How much time do you know that they spend face to face with a parent? Do you know?
I don't. We don't have good data on that. Now, we do know they're spending a lot less time face to face with their friends.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that time has been cut in half.
Wow. Okay. So a parent is there listening and they're going, okay, I get it. Oh, what am I going to do? So how do we, and you recommend at least till the kids are 16 for social media. I do as well. Jonathan Haidt does as well. And how do you delay giving your kid a device or getting them or allowing them to be on the internet 24/7? Without having a knockdown drag out and constant tension in the home for years.
Yeah. So that was really my goal in this book, because doing this research for a long time, at first my kids were pretty young, then they grow into teenagers, and I started giving a lot of talks for parents as well, and just hearing about what worked and what didn't, and seeing what worked and what didn't in my own house. And it was also somewhat frustrating that a lot of the advice that was out there that I read was really vague. It was, it depends. And as a parent, that's not what I want. I want a concrete rule that's relatively easy to follow. So that's
It
what
makes sense. Yeah.
and that makes sense, right? That's backed up, by experience, research, or both. And that's really what my goal was setting out was let's have some concrete rules that are actually easier, that will actually lead to fewer fights. So here's one example. One of the rules is you get your first smartphone when you get your driver's license. So before that, there's other, basic phones and so on. I'm not saying like Zippo nothing, but actual internet-enabled smartphone when you get your driver's license. That is a line in the sand. It means then that it's a lot easier to keep them off social media if they don't have a phone that has any potential for social media on it. It ties it to real-world independence. And then it is one clear rule, one clear time, and that's it. Then you have that one discussion, and then it's not the daily fight that you're probably going to get if you follow what I've seen a lot of other people say is, oh, it depends. We're going to give the kid a smartphone when they're ready. Your kid's going to be telling you every second that they know that they're ready and trying to convince you. So you have that one set rule, and you can shut it down.
Mm-hmm. I love it. But Dr. Twenge, all of my 13-year-old's friends have smartphones and they're on their phones on social media. My daughter feels like she's left out. What do you say?
So one halfway solution is your kids probably want to text their friends from their own device. So you can get them a basic phone, a phone designed for kids that looks like a regular Android phone, and they can text their friends. So my younger two kids who are 13 and 16 have those. The 16-year-old doesn't have her driver's license quite yet, which is why she doesn't have her smartphone yet. So that's been a really nice compromise solution for our family. And it's worked for a lot of other parents I've talked to as well. So then they don't have to feel left out in terms of everybody texting each other. Social media, however, they don't really need it. So I think it's an enormous myth that kids have to have social media to have a social life. It is just not true. And that hasn't been true for my kids. That hasn't been true for tons of parents who I've talked to, because kids have so many other ways to communicate. They can text, they can call, they can FaceTime, they can get together with friends in person. Oh, they need information? They have the rest of the internet. It doesn't have to be algorithmic social media. And my oldest child is in college now. She's 18. And she said something the other day I thought was really striking that I keep repeating to people just because I like it so much. She says, anyone who says, I will not communicate with you unless you have this specific platform is not really your friend.
Exactly. And they're not worth communicating with. Yeah.
So have that conversation. They're like, oh, what's your Snapchat handle? Well, I'm not on Snapchat. Can we text?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think that, teaching kids, rather than saying, I'd love to hear your take on this to your 14-year-old or 15-year-old, no, you can't have one. No, you can't have one. It's bad. It's bad. And you can't have one. Or, sort of sitting down and saying, here's what we know about this. And I'd like to know what your thoughts are on it. But we do know that being on social media changes your brain development and can influence how you relate to people, and how it can lead you to feel worse about yourself and depression and anxiety. And sort of working with the kid and helping them understand to the best of your ability why you don't want them to have it, rather than just sort of saying, no, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Your friends are bad. When you talk up to parents about conversations, with their kids, because kids give them a lot of pushback, when they're 13 or 14, do you recommend they tell them why they are not going to get one, or do you just make it a clear rule?
No, absolutely. You should have those conversations, and you should have conversations about what to do and what not to do online, starting probably late elementary school, because even if they don't have a phone, they're probably going to have a laptop, or a school laptop. So in the first chapter of the book, I have 7 conversations that you should have with your kids. And then on top of that, it should be, here's why I don't want you on social media. Now, kids are different. Out of my three, I would say that two of them are very open to those conversations. They are interested in hearing what the research says and what my reasoning is. And then I have one who is, oh, but mom, and just rolls her eyes. So that's why I think it's great to do both. Talk to your kids, but also have the set rules.
And I imagine if you have a set rule, every 6 months or so, you're going to come back around to, but mom, everybody has it. But mom, you don't realize I'm made fun of. But mom, how do you encourage parents to just sort of stick to their guns about that?
Yeah. Rule 1 in the book is you're in charge.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And we know that the best parenting style is loving but firm. And you're going to have to stand your ground sometimes. And, a lot of parents are uncomfortable with that. I get that. When I first became a parent, I was like, wait, I'm supposed to be the authority figure. And especially when you have teenagers, what you're thinking about is you want them to be happy.
Yes.
But that people aren't going to be happy all the time. And if you give kids and teens what they want to be happy at every second, that's not always going to be what's best for them in the long term. Because what might make them happy in the short term is staying up until 2 a.m. and eating cookies for dinner. But that's not going to be what's best for them in the long term. And technology is not an exception to that. And it's tough. I mean, and I acknowledge this in the book, and I feel this way myself. It's tough for us. We didn't grow up with these platforms. We didn't grow up with smartphones. It's hard to know all the ins and outs of it. It's just when you dig into all the ins and outs of it, you realize even more that our kids should not be, for example, on social media. The scary stuff out there is really, really shocking. And I didn't realize a lot of it myself, even though I'd done, some research on social media and mental health. I didn't realize the depths of the disturbing stuff on social media until I really dug into it for this book.
And I agree. Just for our audience, can you give 4 or 5 statistics or that parents may not know about how unhealthy social media is for our kids? Because there are a lot of parents saying, I know, but my kid's a really good kid and I can trust her to not believe all that stuff. Tell us the truth about social media.
Yeah. These algorithms on social media are so powerful. So that's the first thing that we have to understand. The companies have poured billions into making their products, they would call them as engaging as possible, but what many people would say is as addictive as possible. So the notifications, the design of the app, showing people what they think they want to see, everything is designed for them to spend as much of their time on the app as possible. And the companies know that the younger teens are the most susceptible to this. TikTok, for example, has said that in their internal company documents. So they know. And to them, that means they're really good customers because they're going to spend 8 hours a day on it. Right. And, you're the product. No matter what age you are on social media, you're the product in terms of your data and advertising and all of that. You're the product. That's why they're, quote, free, but they're not free. You pay with your time, you pay with your attention. And here's the other stat. A lot of teens are paying with their mental health. So here's the basically how it works. The more hours a day a teen spends on social media, the more likely it is that he or she will be depressed. In some of the best designed studies, twice as many heavy users are depressed compared to light users. Depression overall has doubled since 2012 in the age of ubiquitous social media. That's among 12 to 17-year-olds. And, I think the other piece about the platforms, like you mentioned, but it's a good kid. She won't believe it. Here's an interesting study on Instagram. They tried to manipulate this in a study where the perfect bodies on Instagram had little statements on them that said, this was photoshopped, which a lot of them actually are. That didn't make a difference in how teen girls and young women felt when they saw these perfect images. They still felt insecure. It still led to them being less satisfied with their own appearance. And one more stat, Snapchat receives 10,000 reports of sextortion a month and acknowledges that that's probably the tip of the iceberg. And just context, again, because we didn't grow up with these platforms, what happens is a scammer, blackmailer, will pretend to be someone, let's say a teen girl, reach out to a teen boy, start having a conversation, ask him to send a nude picture, and then we'll say, hey, I will send this picture to everybody you know unless you pay me $300. That is sextortion. And there have been several high-profile cases, particularly of teen boys who have taken their own lives in those situations.
Because they've sent photos.
Because they sent the photo, and then the blackmailer threatens to send it to everyone they know. They're embarrassed. They don't want to go to their parents to ask for the money. They feel like their life is over.
Well, talk about, while we're on the topic, sex trafficking and what that has to do with social media and the association between social media and sex trafficking.
Yeah, so social media apps, and then also there's an app I just learned about called Wiz, which is supposed to be for teens making friends, but is effectively used as a dating app. There have been several cases there of unknown adults reach out to teens, and that can happen very easily on any of these social media platforms. So that, I think, is another thing that is hard to fully process, just how easy it is for unknown adults to contact teenagers on these platforms. There are very few guardrails, if any, in place to prevent that from happening. I mean, there's been a few attempts over the years, but it's still happening all the time. And a lot of parents don't want their kids, going on dates with kids their age. They don't want their kids like walking or biking to school. But then their kids in their room on these platforms with, unrestricted access for adults to contact them. And then, next level, it can be, they if they meet in person.
The fallacy that a lot of parents believe, because you want to believe it, is that, my daughter's 15, she's smart, she's a good kid, she gets good grades. She would never fall for that. Yes, she would, because she's a nice kid. And a lot of girls don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, even if it's a stranger on the other end. And so girls are very susceptible to this because, in my experience, a lot of these guys, it's usually older guys and girls, know exactly what to say to hook these girls. And you're right. Sex trafficking is much more likely to happen on social media than somebody driving by and taking your kid out of their yard. These guys know it's a much easier thing to do. So let's talk about regulation. There are lawsuits against tech companies to new laws around youth social media use. What can parents realistically expect from regulation? Is it helpful? Is it not helpful? Is it real?
Well, at the moment, there's basically no regulation of social media for kids. So that's starting to change. Australia passed a law recently requiring verification of age and raising the minimum age for social media to 16. That's set to go into effect in December. They're working out now with the companies, like how they're going to do that and how it's going to be enforced. In the U.S., basically nothing. So, I think this is the other thing, is there's the assumption that there's some regulation in place or some enforcement in place, and there's really not. So the minimum age for social media right now is 13. So that was a compromise with the tech companies at the dawn of the internet in 1998. It wasn't for any developmental reason. No parent or educator made the case of 13. Puberty, middle school, that's the best time to introduce social media. No one would ever make that argument. So it's clearly too low. And even that is not enforced. So there are, 10, 11, 12-year-olds routinely on TikTok and Instagram. The companies say, oh, they're not supposed to be, but they are. They are.
They are. Yeah.
Now, a lot of parents will use the argument, not that just that I trust my kid. They're going to make good decisions. Like, what good decision can a 15-year-old make? I don't know of any, but that they want to teach them how to be independent, and they want to teach them, how to make good decisions, or, choose good things. Does being on the internet or social media help kids become more independent, or does it hurt their independence?
So I think it hurts them because that app is really in charge. They aren't. It's really hard for even adults to make good decisions around social media because those algorithms are so powerful, because the apps are designed to keep people on them for as long as possible. And, they're relatively anonymous. So cyberbullying happens a lot because they're not looking at the person's face as they're saying this to them. So if you want your kid to develop independence, have them do that in the real world. So that's rule 8 in the book. So walk or bike to school, or drop them off at the amusement park with their friends. Or if you want to focus on home stuff, have them learn how to cook, have them do their own laundry. And then the bonus is then you don't have to do their laundry, and then you don't have to cook that night. I mean, it's a win-win situation. And
I had our son start doing his laundry when he was 14. And I felt really, really guilty. But now he's married and has, a child, and it's like, he's so glad, but you feel, I don't know, that's another parenting issue altogether. We don't want our kids to, work or do things like that. They kind of want them to depend on us. But, so that idea that, kids can choose when they're on the internet or social media, or choose when they're going to be playing video games. You don't advocate for that.
Well,
obviously.
I mean, within reason. So, for example, they want to play a game with their friends. Then they have a time limit, 30 minutes on weekdays, an hour or two on the weekends. And they can choose when to do that, but not to do it for 8 hours a day.
But it's hard. I mean, in my experience, in a way, video games are even harder to get kids off of than social media, because a classic story that a parent says to me, my 15-year-old boy, he's on playing video games. He's playing with his friends in different parts of the country, or people that he doesn't even know. And he plays, and I have a time limit. And when the buzzer goes off, it's an hour, and he just screams at me and gives me such a fight every single time. What do you do? I mean, you tell the parents, well, then he can't play, or?
Well, I mean, first, it shouldn't be a buzzer and you coming in and saying, stop playing. It should be that gaming console shutting down because you put parental controls with a time limit. Or same thing, with parental controls on a laptop for a laptop game or a computer game. So, that's step one. Because then, you're the bad guy, but you're the bad guy once and you set it up, and then it's done. It doesn't work anymore.
So you can do that. I don't mean to be, totally ignorant, but I didn't know you can actually have controls put on your device where it just shuts down after an hour. Is that hard to do?
If you buy third-party software, it's not. I haven't done it on a gaming console myself, but I've done it on a laptop, and it's pretty easy. If you and the software that you can use for that can do all kinds of other things too, like say block pornography websites, which is also important.
Mm-hmm. Is there any kind of software or programs that you recommend as far that parents can use, Net Nanny, or things that you would recommend parents use to block or control what their kids are seeing on their screens?
So I use a software called Custodio. I tried a bunch of others and I couldn't get them to work on my kids' Mac laptops. Custodio isn't perfect, but it does most of what I need it to do pretty consistently. So that's worked out well. So it will, shut down the game after the half an hour on the weekday, for example. It filters out, whole categories of websites and specific websites that I ask it to block. And then I can also make exceptions. So like my 13-year-old is a huge Swiftie. And I have entertainment blocked on her laptop, and it blocked the Taylor Swift website, with the merch that she likes to get for Christmas. So I just made an exception for that. So it's flexible. That's one nice thing about it.
So if there was one thing that you would tell parents to do that's most important out of your 10 rules, what would it be?
It would be rule number 2, no electronic devices in the bedroom overnight. And
love it.
Try to follow all the rules. But I wrote the book to try to help parents out to make it easier. And one of my favorite aphorisms is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. If you can even follow some of the rules, you're going to be ahead of the game. If you can get the devices out of your kid's bedroom at night, you're going to at least preserve their sleep. And that's absolute progress.
But I think that parents just need a lot of encouragement, and they need backing from people like you. We only have a couple minutes left. Talk about AI, if you would. And what's going to be the biggest challenge, I guess, for kids with AI and for parents whose kids want to use AI all the time?
So there's a lot of challenges out there. One of the things that came up right away was, teens using it to write their essays. And I teach college as well, so it's coming up there too. So then they're not going to learn how to write. They're not going to learn how to think. So this is tough. My biggest concern as a parent is the AI companion apps, the AI boyfriends and girlfriends, the AI sexy chat, which, by the way, if you hand a kid a smartphone without parental controls, there's nothing to stop them from downloading an AI girlfriend and having their first so-called romantic relationship at the age of 12 with a bot. That's where we are. And that's changed just in the last 6 months. So I think that's the other thing that parents should be aware of. It's yet another reason to not give your kids a smartphone until they're older and to put parental controls on it when you do. So if you give them one of these basic phones that's designed for kids instead of giving them a smartphone, no social media, most of them have no internet browser, and they also don't allow those AI companion apps. So it's just yet another reason. And I found out about the plethora of these apps by looking at the banned apps list on the interface for my kids' basic phones. There's a really long list of these apps.
Sometimes you think, you just can't make this stuff up. We're at a place in our culture where young kids can fall in love with a bot. A fake person. And how easy it would be, because this AI person can tell you everything you want to hear about yourself. They can never criticize you. They can just make you feel wonderful. And how it's going to harm kids' their mental health at the time they're doing it, but B, set up their real life relationships to fail, because what person can compete with a bot?
No one. No actual human being is going to be that affirming, or there 24/7, or be able to engage in sexy chat every second of every day the way that the bot can. So yeah, what is that going to do to kids who grow up using those apps and then try to have a relationship with an actual human being?
One more very compelling reason for parents to delay as long as possible after 16. I think it should be 18. I think these are really, really serious devices that can do some serious harm to kids. But parents, please take heed at what Dr. Twenge is saying. Where can people find out about your work or what you do?
Probably the best place is my website. So it's just my name, JeanTwenge.com, JeanTwenge.com. And that has all the information about my books and Q&A and about the speaking engagements that I do for parent groups and other groups on this topic. I also do talks for kids as well. So high school students, middle school students. Middle school students are actually among my favorite audiences because they come up with questions I've never heard before. I've been doing this for a while, since 2017. And so I feel like I've heard almost all of the questions, and can sometimes anticipate them. And the middle school students will come up with stuff out of left field and I love it.
And they love it. And they'll ask it. And they're
they'll
looking
ask
at
it, and they're open. I mean, I think that's the other thing. I think a lot of parents think, because this is what I thought when I first started giving talks on this topic, that kids would be like, "What are you doing? You don't know anything." They know.
Right.
And, I thought they'd be like, "Old lady, you don't know how great these are. We love these things. They're all great. We love our smartphones. We love our social media." And I get that occasionally, but the vast majority of the high school and middle school students, no. They know this is a problem. They just don't know how to solve it, particularly because it's a social issue, not just an individual issue. They want to have the language for talking to their friends about, "Hey, if you don't text me back right away, I'm not mad at you. It's because I went to sleep, or because I'm studying, or I'm talking to my parents. I'm not on Snapchat. Can we communicate somewhere else?" And it's hard for them to they need inspiration to have those conversations with their friends. That's what I try to give them.
Yeah, I think it's fabulous. And even, talking points. Here's what you say if, and here's what you say when, because a lot of them, like you said, they know, but they kind of don't know. They don't know the depth of the problem, the extent of the problem, and then they don't know what to say or what the solution is. And I think parents are the same way. Kids know there's trouble. Parents know there's trouble. But we need to let them know how big it is and how to respond to it. And the cool thing is there is a lot they can do. If there weren't a solution to what we're talking about, you wouldn't write books, and we wouldn't come on talking about this on a podcast if we had no solution for parents.
Yeah. And that's really what I wanted to do in this book, because, and I've heard people say this. Parents, academics would be like, "Oh, it's just the way kids are now. Oh, it's everywhere. There's nothing we can do." I strongly, strongly disagree with that. I think there's a lot that you can do. And fortunately, a lot of those solutions are relatively low cost, low time. Some of them are more intensive than others, but a lot of them don't really take that much. We're going to put all of our phones downstairs when we go to sleep at night. Cost nothing.
And kids are more open to accepting what you say if you say it the right way.
That's right.
They really are. They're not all sort of jerky kids who are going to give you a lot of pushback and fight. A lot of them like, okay, particularly once they've been doing it for a while and they realize how much better they feel. So
exactly. Absolutely.
Hey parents, I'm Dr. Meg Meeker, and if you're ready for real solutions to your parenting problems from a pediatrician, join my Parenting Great Kids community today.
There's a reason so many parents trust Dr. Meg Meeker. Now her courses, parenting forum, and trusted answers are all in one place, the PGK Insider Community. Join free at meekerparenting.com.